And welcome to podcast 129. The full crew's back. Everybody's here. My name's Hunter Waldrop. That is Jake Stinchcomb. And there's Tyler Vaughn, Big T at the bottom. Fellas, how we doing, Jake? I know Tyler and I are glad to have you back. We know you got some big stuff coming up, but glad to have you here for the big preview episode.
Good, man. Glad to be back. Thank you guys for getting the last episode done. I listened to it, tried to watch it live. I caught like the last 30 minutes of it live, but y'all did great. It was good to just sit back and listen and not have to worry about like inputting myself and interrupting. I just got to listen to you two talk ball, so that was fun. But personally, yeah, I've had a good year. Graduated from college, started a full-time job. I'm getting married in 2 weeks, so life is crazy right now. Kind of in the middle of a big moving in. And so we are gearing up for ball in 2 weeks as well as big wedding in 2 weeks. So I'm excited. Just very grateful that we're able to do this every year. I think this is mine and Hunter's year 3 and then Tyler's second year, which is crazy. Time's flying. Like I still have my notes from 2024, like all in a drive. And I'm like, I feel like I just did this. Like I'd be sitting in class doing notes. And, you know, we're probably going to have the same viewership that we have in the past few years, but it's the same guys. And I love that. I love getting on here and talking ball. This is my favorite hobby, is getting on here and talking about this stuff. I love it. Thankful for you guys. So I'm excited.
Jake, we missed you, but glad you're here. Let's get into it. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to freaking go, man.
Spot the ball. Hunt, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Spot the ball, like my name's Sunbelt Billy. All right. So we'll put the slides on here. I'm getting used to the new StreamYard thing here. But for the ones who might be listening at home, all one of you right now, but some who will go back and listen to this, we are just going to go through. We're going to name our conference championship games. We're going to tell you who we think is going to win the Big Four conference championships. Then we're going to get into our 12-team playoff predictions. We'll pick a Heisman Trophy winner, and that'll be about it. And that might not seem like a lot on the docket, but when you get the three of us on one call like this, it can get dicey real quick. So can't wait to see where the conversation leads, fellas. So let's hop right on into it. Big 12 conference. It was Texas Tech, BYU last year. Pretty much a one team. Oh, it was not. I guess it wasn't a one team race, but it was like we all knew Texas Tech was the best team in the conference, and this year they are coming into it with a lot of controversy heading into the season. But I see the three of us all picked Texas Tech and BYU to play again in a rematch. And guys, I'll let y'all go first because I know who both of y'all picked for your champion in this game, and I differed from you two. So. Jake, I'll let you go first, and then Tyler, you can follow up.
So I did my projections and everything and put them into the slides after y'all, and this was the first one I came up on, and I was like, I'm going to try my best to create a scenario where I could just make it different just for the graphic sake and for conversation's sake, but I just couldn't. I think Texas Tech and BYU they're tier 1, no doubt, and tier 2, there's a big drop because we don't know what to make of the Big 12 year in, year out. It's just a bunch of wild card teams that are anywhere between 5 to 8 wins, and they all spoil each other's seasons. But Texas Tech, the only thing that held me back with Texas Tech is obviously losing the quarterback. I don't even know what the status of that is because he was going to come back. Hunter, you may know more on this than I do, but as far as I know, he's just preparing for the NFL draft now, right? He's not going to try to come back to college. That's correct.
I think that he was told he could be in it, then told he couldn't, and now he's just waiting for next year's draft at this point.
Yeah.
So Sorsby, they went and spent he was like the highest paid quarterback out of the portal, right?
Yeah.
And then he gets caught gambling. Cincinnati turns him in for gambling, Cincinnati turned him in for gambling, whatever, playing in the Big 12 now. And, he had a good year there last year. And then he gets put into rehab or whatever. And then, he's getting clean from gambling. He's just like one of us, really, at the end of the day. And then NCAA actually has a say here. This is the first time the NCAA actually got to do something until they didn't. So they banned him. They said he cannot play. And then a Lubbock judge who graduated from Texas Tech ruled, screw you, NCAA. Brendan Sorsby can play this year, and he was fully prepared to play. And then the entire college football world had an outrage, and him and the university. So technically he could play if he wanted to, but he and the university both decided I shouldn't play because teams were taking him off the schedule. The Big 12 teams were threatening to just not play Texas Tech this year. It was a whole thing. So now he's just getting ready for the 2027 NFL draft.
Yeah, that's fine. This could be just a separate conversation, but we've got to get a grip on the NFL guys coming back. I saw the tight end from the Browns who was at Ole Miss is now going to play for LSU. And then my next point off the quarterback topic with Texas Tech was Tommy Castellanos might be coming back. Big Tommy C might be coming to Texas Tech, which is crazy. But I like the guy they have there now, Will Hammond, the backup from last year. He's more of a completions guy. Not throwing the ball downfield a ton, but he's got that experience. I remember specifically that the big game they played last year against Utah, or I don't remember. I think it was Utah, right?
Yeah, because me and you were like,
do what?
No, I just remember me and you were like we pushed all of our chips in on Utah that game. We're like, this is where Dampier finds his way to New York. Like, this is going to be it.
Yeah, Devin Dampier is still on the banned list for
Sorsby goes down, and then this Will Hammond kid just breaks out like a 50-yard touchdown run, and we're like, dude, what happened? And then he tore his ACL. So, he's questionable to start the year. Yeah. But if they get Tommy C, I still
what do you do with that? Like, if he comes in, next week, we're a week away. Texas Tech schedule is cake. The beginning of it is cake. And I think that's what's ultimately carrying them to the Big 12 game. I mean, the roster's stacked, and I don't think there's so much. Their 1-2 running back, punch back defense is stacked, and they've got their formula now for bringing in guys from the portal and just stacking rosters every year. But so I just think they're going to run. I think they'll go 12-0. I tried to find the only game that I think that they might drop. And this team I almost put in the Big 12 title game was Oklahoma State. I think it's week 9 or 10. Texas Tech goes on the road to Oklahoma State. Drew Mestemaker, I love that squad. I think they're a wild card team, and they're going to be in that 8 to 10 win range. 10 might be the ceiling there, but I think Mestemaker's an NFL guy, and we're going to be watching him on TV for several years. That's the only game I could see Texas Tech losing. Then BYU, somebody help me out on the coach's name.
Kalani Sitake.
Kalani Sitake. I'm pretty sure they have 14 starters back across the board. Bear Bachmeier coming back with valuable experience. I like them. I like their schedule as well. Their toughest matchup is Notre Dame, obviously, and I got them dropping that one. That's the only one I have them dropping. I have both of these teams going 11-1. So pretty chalky, but I just don't know how you can make an argument for anybody else in the Big 12 to be here at the end of the year.
So I am in the same boat as both of you guys here. I think Texas Tech and BYU are kind of, like Hunter said, the tier 1 teams in the conference, and then everybody else is kind of just jumbled in there together. But I think Texas Tech can get it done enough in the regular season. I do believe I had them going 12-0 in the regular season and BYU at 11-1. But again, I think that there's so much talent at the top here with these two teams, and then it drops off so much that it will put them in the conference title game. Jake, I don't know, are we covering our winners right now or waiting till later? Covering it now? Okay. So my big thing, kind of like what you alluded to with the quarterback situation for Texas Tech, it's like I don't really know who is going to be the starter there. If it is Tommy C, then I'm still not very confident in him playing big games, a title game, a playoff game, whatever it might be, because he wasn't very good at Florida State. I mean, let's face it, they sucked. They were terrible last year. They had one big win against Alabama, and then they went just straight downhill since then. So don't see that guy performing at a high level. And I think Bear Bachmeier and that, again, like Jake said, the BYU has a ton of guys returning. I think that's going to be a big factor for them. So I do have them winning this one and maybe seeing Texas Tech later on in the season, but we'll cover that later.
Yeah, man. So y'all both chose BYU to win the Big 12, correct? Yeah. I chose Texas Tech. But Jake, you just brought up a good point, and I'm not going to try and get on tangent here. Got to stay on topic, but like there is one other team that I think you can legitimately make an argument for to be in this game outside of Oklahoma State if you think Maker's going to pop off, and it's Kansas State. You want to talk about an easy schedule? They don't play BYU, they don't play Texas Tech, and they get Oklahoma State, Houston at home, and Arizona. So Colin Klein, first year head coach, but Avery Johnson is still in college. Experienced quarterbacks seem to be doing better in this day and age of college football. So I just went through their schedule. I'm like, dude, this team might go 10-2, but I think even with 10-2, they're not getting in. Stay on topic here. Texas Tech. I think Will Heyman's just not getting a lot of respect. I've seen a lot of people, national media, just kind of taking a snooze on Texas Tech, like, oh, they ain't got the quarterback. But like, I remember Will Heyman going in there and playing very good football last year. And then he did tear his ACL. Barry Morton came back and they were fine. But even if they don't, even if he does get hurt, I should say, and if he doesn't start the year, whatever it might be, like I have a feeling they have enough depth all around that the quarterback position should be fine at Texas Tech. I'm pretty sure they have a 5-star or a 4-star as a backup. That's a freshman. And then like the whole Tommy C factor is just a crazy thing. But I actually have both of these teams going 11-1. I have BYU going undefeated in the conference, and I have Texas Tech losing one game to Oklahoma State in week 11. But so BYU would be the home team. But I think Texas Tech gets the job done here. But I respect Kalani Sitake enough and Bear Bachmeier to just be like, yeah, they're just going to – this is what BYU does. Like nobody really talks about them. They're going to be ranked between 15 and 10 all year long, halfway through the year, and they're just going to stay there. And I think LJ Martin – the running back is one of the best backs, not talked about enough, and I think he's going to play very good on Sundays one day. I remember saying that to Jake last year. So I chose Texas Tech. I think at the lines of scrimmage is where this will be done, and I think BYU is going to be one of those teams where chew the clock, quarterback, easy reads, run the football, get it done, and I think you can't play from behind against a team like Texas Tech. We saw that twice last year. So, but instead of having 2 losses this time, I only have BYU having 1, so we'll get more on them and Texas Tech later. Moving on to the ACC. Tyler and I, same here. Jake changed it up. So, Jake, I'll let you go first on this one as well.
Yeah, so I have Miami and Virginia Tech. Hunter said this pre-show that I tried my hardest, or I wanted to pick Louisville and just had to change it up, and that sums this up. I went with Virginia Tech. They brought in, and I'll get to Miami, but I went with Virginia Tech as my team playing them in the ACC title game, just because I'm a big believer in James Franklin as a head coach. It's going to be tough. I think there's another reason it's so hard to pick anybody outside of these 2 teams is in the ACC, talking about Miami and Louisville, is you look across the board, Virginia, Pitt, Virginia Tech, Clemson, there's so much turnover in the ACC. There's so much change. And I guess you could say that about all of college football. But as I dove deeper into all these teams, there's so much change happening, so much. And I do trust James Franklin, and I would put him at the top 3 as head coaches in the conference. And I believe their schedule is pretty favorable. It's easy to pick out wins. I'm going to kind of talk through it. But like an FCS school in Old Dominion to open up, and they have a non-con against Maryland, one of the lower teams in the Big Ten. So I think that's 3 wins. I think they win at Boston College. I think they beat Pitt at home. At Cal, that's tough going across country, but Cal's, not too promising. They get Tech at home. They go to Clemson. So I think they could start out the season 6-1, 5-2 before bye, and then the back half of the schedule gets kind of tough with SMU, Miami, and Virginia to close out the year. But like I said, there's so much turnover. I do not think they're going to win the AC title game. I think this will be a bloodbath. It will not be worth watching. But I think, he brought in 12 starters from Penn State. So it's Penn State East now at Virginia Tech. You can't deny that roster last year, Penn State was terrible, but that was great players, great recruits. He's always been a good recruiter at Penn State. and then he flipped, I think, 10 or 11 more recruits and brought with him to Virginia Tech. So I think he's got something started. He's got the groundwork laid at Virginia Tech. I think he's going to be there for, the next 10 years. I love the fit there. And like he said, he's confident in it. He said on College Game Day last year, I think it was like wherever – this was before he said he was going to Virginia Tech, that he was going to win a national championship at his next school. And I like that mentality. I think he's a good coach, and I'm excited. And they brought a quarterback-wise, the Grunkemeyer kid, I believe is his name. And he's a solid, reliable option, and I like that as a start. It'd be sick if they still had Kyron Drones. That would really change my outlook on them. So I have them playing Miami, like James Franklin. And then Miami, I know we're going to talk about them a lot more after this slide, but I have them winning. I believe we all do. Not to spoil anything, but it's pretty straightforward. Darren Mensah, he's going to be in New York, I believe, at the end of the year. Their roster across the board. I'm the Miami whisperer. Everybody knows this. Mario Cristobal, head coach, he's one of those guys that's so close. He's on the brink of breaking through. The defense, they lose Bain and the other guy, I can't think of his name up front, but they're reloading. Tony, they bring back. Mensah brought Barcade with him from Duke. Mark Fletcher's back. See, I still suck at pronouncing names, guys. Like, I can't do it. I'm never going to get better at it. But yeah, they still have a lot of experience on that roster. One of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think they're going to run through the ACC. And I do believe Miami goes 11-1 with a loss to Notre Dame. So yeah, I have them win the ACC. Tyler?
Yeah, I like what you said about Miami. I do think that them getting a taste of how close they were to a natty last year, they're going to come back, and I think they're going to be ready to run the table. This Louisville team is interesting to me, especially with bringing Lincoln Kienholz in from Ohio State. I think that in camp he was giving Sayin a run for the starting job last year, right? If I remember correctly, and then they did end up naming Sayin. But if he can play with that guy, and I'll have more on Sayin later. But if he could compete with that guy for a starting job at a place like Ohio State, it makes me feel like he will be an elite quarterback. They loaded this roster out with talent. I think Louisville's got a very favorable schedule as well. To be sitting at 11, I think I have them at 11-1 going into the ACC title game. I do have Miami winning again. I think they're going to be ready to run the table. Mensah, Mark Fletcher, Malachi Tony. I think their defense is still going to be very good as well. So I do have Miami winning, but I like Louisville here. I think they're going to have a really good season.
Yeah, I won't hone in too much on Miami because, like Jake said, I think all three of us got a lot more to say. And I know I personally got a lot to say about them later on in the show, and I know Jake does too. So I'll just focus on Louisville. Isaac Brown rushed for 1,000 yards just 2 years ago, dipped off a little bit last year because I think it became so run heavy, and that switch to Miller Moss just didn't gel with Jeff Brom too much. But I think he's going to be a phenomenal back. And guys, Lincoln Kienholz can freaking scoot. He can scoot. He can use his legs. And I'm betting on the coach here, right? Brom is the quarterback whisperer. He does what he does. And Louisville's so live in week 1 in Nashville against Ole Miss. Like, Louisville is live. It is a 6.5-point spread, and I can see them just in the fourth quarter in a dogfight there. I know they lose Chris Belt, receiver, but I'm betting on the coach here, and I'm betting on that Kienholz is going to pan out, and that Isaac Brown's going to go back to what he was 2 years ago, rushing for over 1,000 yards. Jake, I do want to say, I find it funny you picked Virginia Tech because I have them finishing 10th in the conference.
You had them what? You cut out.
I have them finishing 10th in the conference.
Gosh.
7-5, bowl team. 4-5 in the conference, but 10th. I have North Carolina State, SMU, Clemson, Virginia, Cal, Pitt, all above them. But hey, betting on the coach, James Franklin.
I thought this was the hardest conference outside of these two teams, or Miami and Louisville, to make anything of it. Like
I think SMU's gonna be pretty good. And
so SMU, but it's like the quarterback. That's about it. Coach, I guess you could argue. I don't know.
Yeah, legitimately, Guys, I think the winner of the Louisville SMU game in week 3 probably plays Miami in the conference championship.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And I gave Louisville the edge because it's at home. It's early in the year. So, anyways, enough about the ACC. Getting to the second best conference in the land, the SEC. Oh, man. This is going to be good. We're going to spend a lot of time on this. I have a feeling, fellas. Who wants to go first? Because I want to go last.
I will because I have comments. I have comments about one team that y'all both have in common here. So, starting off, Georgia, they're reloaded. They're going to be ready to go. Their defense, I think, is going to be their strongest point of that team this year. And I think that even if Gunnar Stockton's not performing super well, that their defense can kind of carry them to it. We know how Georgia plays in SEC when it's time to play SEC ball. They'll come down. They're gonna show up and show out. And the Tigers down in Baton Rouge, I love Lane Kiffin as a coach. I think he's a great coach. Shitty guy, great coach. They have a really talented roster as well. Austin Simmons is there. Am I tripping? No, that's Missouri. Sam Levitt is going to be a stud in that LSU offense. I think that Lane Kiffin's got something cooking down there in the Bayou, and I see them getting to the conference title game. I do have Georgia winning it, though. Georgia doesn't lose in Atlanta. So going to have Georgia taking home the SEC title, but watch out for LSU. I think I had them at maybe 10-2 and getting in. So.
Yeah, all right. I got this was so hard. And I texted Hunter while we were making all this, and I'm like, the SEC has turned into the Big 12 East. It's ridiculous. Like, what do you do with the SEC? I guess all these conferences. It's so hard, excuse me, to project anything and do all this preseason. Because one, we don't have a clue. Like, that's life. Two, now with the transfer portal and how many guys are staying and coming back, and we got guys playing preseason NFL ball and coming back, like, it's so hard to like forecast these things. But the SEC has turned into the Big 12 where there's 9 to 10 teams. You could probably argue that you could make a case that, well, this team's going to go 10-2 and make the SEC championship this year. Sorry, guys. So I landed on Ole Miss and OU. Hunter, I'll let you go into more depth about OU. I know they're your guys, but a little bit on them. Last year,
perfect.
Really, the question was, the concern when Mateer was healthy, who was he throwing to? And they brought in 2 options for that. They got Livingston from Texas, another transfer wide receiver. Not a lot lost on defense. Venables is a defensive coach. Their defense is going to be good. And then having Mateer healthy, if he can, and he looks jacked. He looks huge. He's tough. He can run it. And I like their schedule, the way it plays out. I believe I have them. I can double check. I got them going 10-2 or 11-1, with their only loss being in Athens against Georgia. And then Ole Miss, I'm not going to sit here and pick against Trinidad Chambliss and Kejuan Lacey. I think they can be one of the best quarterback running back duos we've seen in college football over the past 10 years. Both All-American guys, both going to be NFL Sunday guys. They're going to be so much fun to watch. Even with all the drama with Kiffin in the offseason, we saw what they did without Kiffin, and it's a big overhaul. But bringing those 2 guys back, like if you sat here and told me that those 2 guys are going to be in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, I'm not going to be surprised. And I think if you had to pick, the Heisman Trophy is usually a quarterback given award. And I had to pick somebody who's not a quarterback to be there, I'd probably go Kejuan Lacey, assuming he stays healthy. Offensively, it's a complete wide receiver skill position overhaul outside of running back. But I think Trinidad Chambliss, I just said Chambliss. Oh, my gosh. I think Trinidad Chambliss is one of those guys. He's going to make all the guys around him better. They brought in 2 transfers from Syracuse, both receivers. And Deuce Alexander, he was their third option last year. He's back. I think he had over 600 yards. Good option there. And then in the offseason, all their changes were made in the portal. They added 8 4-stars and bring back both of their corners. They added Jonel Aguero from Georgia. So brought in a lot defensively, and they brought back the face of their defense. I believe how you say his name is Suntarine Perkins. He's entering his 4th year. he's going to be an All-American at the end of the season. He's got almost 200 tackles, over 30 tackles for a loss in his career. So I think Ole Miss, they're just stacked defensively. And I think Trinidad Chambliss is the best quarterback in the country. So I've got them going to the SEC title game and winning, which is just crazy to say, knowing everybody here knows how big of a Georgia guy I am. But I tried to leave my bias out of it this year. And I think Georgia's got a few slip-ups in that schedule that I'm nervous about as a fan. So I've got Ole Miss and Oklahoma, and Ole Miss winning it. Hunt, take the floor.
Yeah, so pre-show, like earlier this afternoon when I was putting all this together, I just went ahead and shoot in a Georgia logo next to Jake's name for the conference championship pick, and he shocked all of us. I even texted – Tyler called me on the phone, and I was like, well, we know Georgia – Jake's going to pick Georgia, but good for you, man. Good for you. Yeah, I have – let's see here. I got both these teams going 11-1. I actually have Oklahoma coming into Athens and winning. I know, hot take.
Do you?
Yes, Tyler, I'm keeping this professional today. Okay, man. And I also have Oklahoma winning Red River. I have their only loss coming to Ole Miss at home. I think Oklahoma is one of those teams. Like I said, I'm going to bank on veteran quarterbacks. I've just seen how veteran quarterbacks have excelled in this new age of college football. This is Mateer's third year starting, third year under the same system. And like Jake said, he got some help at receiver. And I also just refuse to believe that the running situation from last year, because they could not run the ball to save their life. Like, there's no way it can be worse. That's the way I look at it, especially when all 5 offensive linemen are coming back and starting again. I think having chemistry at offensive line is a big deal. Tyler, you can speak on that. It is a big deal, especially in today's age of football, where now you're just kind of plugging and playing with transfers, right? It's very rare to see all 5 starters come back for another year. They were young, and I think the only way is up for this team. And obviously, you guys know I do believe in John Mateer. I'm not going to sit here and try and make some big deal about it or anything, but I do think he's a very good quarterback. And, yeah, he did get jacked, but he got that so he could run the ball. And so he can take more hits. And so that wear and tear in NCAA football doesn't just beat him up. You know what I'm saying, Jake? Yeah, I know you're a big dynasty guy. So I just think it's the only way is up. And I'm not going to question a Brent Venables defense, especially in year 4. Is this his 4th year at Oklahoma, 5th year at Oklahoma? Like, it's gotten better every year. I'm not saying that it's going to be as good as last year, because I know they lose R. Mason Thomas, but they do have David Stone coming back. That's pretty big for them at the nose tackle position. And I just think they're going to be a good football team. And I think it's one of those teams that you just don't want to face all year. Whereas Georgia is going to be one of those teams you just don't want to face pretty much all year, but really at the end of the year. That's how I feel about Georgia. They have such a young plug-and-play wide receiver core. You know, I know they're plugging in a few pieces at offensive line, but, I mean, the main thing is the main thing at Georgia. I think they're going to run the table outside. They will have a loss. It might not even beat Oklahoma. That's just the one I chose. I think Ole Miss is a losable game. Alabama's a losable game. I think even on the road at South Carolina in Week 12 is a losable game. So, but I'm not going to bet against Kirby Smart either. This is a rematch, and I do have Georgia winning the conference. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. Third year starting running back Nate Frazier. Gunner's coming back, playing quarterback. Just very interested to see how the pass game looks this year. And I do need to see pass rush on defense. I think their secondary is going to be great, but I need to see somebody step up and be able to get home. I was at – actually, I'm not going to get into all that, but I need to see a Gabe Harris or Chris Cole or Elijah Griffin actually be a game record, right? Like, I know they were all young and now they're all back, but, like, I got to see it because we haven't seen that since Jalen Carter in 2022. So, and that's kind of where I'm at with both of these teams. I think they're both going to obviously have great seasons, but I got Georgia beating Oklahoma and Atlanta in a rematch.
I like it. We've got 2 things, actually 3. I'll just on Georgia. 1, everybody's talking about the wide receiver room, and that's the concern. And I agree. Like, I somebody's got to step up, and it's kind of the same conversation we sat here, 2 years ago. when Brock and Ladd went to the NFL, is like who's going to be the guy that steps up. But Hunt, you bring up the pass rush. That's my biggest concern if you go by position unit Gabe Harris and Joseph Jonah, they've got to have huge seasons to get after the quarterback, because some of the quarterbacks that we play, Lenore Sellers, Chambliss, Mateer, Byron Brown at Auburn, like we play a bunch of mobile quarterbacks this year, so that's one of my biggest concerns. And was last year, I believe, when we're doing our Big Ten preview, me and Hunt, I think we both had Washington in the playoff, and we marked the Washington-Oregon game, and we were like, that's the game that they're going to win. That's the game that's going to get them in the playoff. I feel the same, and we just called it. I had it in my head that Washington was winning that football game 15 weeks in advance. That's how I feel about Georgia going on the road to South Carolina in Week 11. I already have that penciled in as a loss. Like that, it'll be a night game in Williams-Brice. South Carolina could either be, 4-7, or Lenoris just goes nuts, and Nick Harbor and all these guys, like they have – Lenoris is like entering year 3. We saw some magic, creep in there 2 years ago. They finished 10-2 right outside of the playoff. And I'm not sitting here saying they're going to be a playoff team, but that just screams South Carolina upset. And we haven't played Carolina in a few years. And then we have a question from the chat. I got a text that came across my screen a few minutes ago from Carter Stevenson, actually, about the SEC. And he asked, did y'all forget that Texas is in the SEC? I'll answer first and let you guys talk on that if you want to. And I feel like we should talk about Texas because I don't think there's anywhere else for us to talk about them. If I'm like, whenever we get to the brackets, we'll get there in a little bit. Go ahead, Hunt, before I go.
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, I have plenty left to say on Texas. But I have one quick response to Carter. Carter, after seeing this graphic, you can just go ahead and chop it up that Texas will win the SEC. That's all this graphic needs to tell you.
Yeah, it'll be like Texas A&M.
Also, I think I've brainwashed my brother because Parker Waldrop in the YouTube chat just said OU 35-21 over Texas.
But my thing with Texas, I think they have a top 5 roster in the country. I think Arch is going to continue to get better this year. We saw it last year. He progressed throughout the season. Cam Coleman's coming in. One, I've always had concerns with Sark coach teams about big games and physicality in big games. It just hadn't been proven to us yet that they can do it. Georgia's bullied them around several times now, and I have to see it to believe it. And Brandon Walker's talked a lot about this over the past few weeks. It's starting to become like one of his takes that he's very confident in. There's a scenario where they're 8-4 and Sark's ass is out. Like that's a legit scenario. But they also could go, 11-1, 12-0, win the SEC and go win a national title game. But I just think my biggest concern with Texas, no matter how good their roster is, their schedule. And I have 6 games highlighted here in their schedule. Ohio State in week 2. Their first road game is in Neyland at Tennessee. Oklahoma, which is a neutral site. Ole Miss at home. At LSU and at Texas A&M, both of those being at the end of the year. Those are 6 games that I can't sit here and say 100% I believe they're going to win each and every one of them. Or, like, if you solo them out, I can't say, yep, they're going on the road and beating LSU. Probably going to be a night game. I just can't. And you're really banking on them in order for them to be in the SEC title game or the playoff. They got to win 4 out of 6 of those. I don't know. I see them go. I have them finishing 9-3 with losses. I think they lose to Oklahoma, at LSU, and at A&M to end the year. But I think that's what Texas has got against them, Mr. Stevenson, is their schedule. So, Hunt, Tyler, I don't know if you have anything else left on that.
I mean, I agree with you, and I also have heard Brandon Walker talk about this, and it's kind of brainwashed me into thinking, I mean, there is a realistic scenario where they are 8-4 and Sark is out. I don't think that's what's going to end up happening, but I'm still not faithful, or I don't have faith in Arch. I really don't. He's got all kinds of weapons around him, but you could also say he did last year too. So I know it has improved. I'll say that with Cam Coleman's going to be great. But don't have full confidence in him there. I do think that they are just on the outside of the conference title game. I think they're, a top 4 team in the conference, absolutely, but don't see him getting in there.
Okay, Mr. Stevenson. I have Texas going 10-2, and I think they are one of 5 teams that can make the playoff at 9-3. Depending on that also depends on how the rest of the country pans out. Like I think Ohio State's one, I think USC is one, I think Texas is one, and there's probably a few others I'm leaving out. But those are like the first 3 that come to my head because I've ran through a few things and I've had all 3 of those teams go 9-3 at one point. But yes, it's not just Brandon Walker. It's Josh Pate. He said, guys, there's a real scenario Texas is 2-2 going into OU at the Red River because they could lose to Tennessee and they could lose to Ohio State. And then it's like, what's going to happen there? Backs against the wall. And then, like Jake said, at LSU, I have them losing that game. I do have them being Texas A&M because, that's just big brother, little brother stuff right there. Call me crazy. Ahmad Hardy and Austin Simmons, let's say it works. That's a road game too. I'm not saying that there's a, it's going to happen, but I'm just saying, guys, like Mr. Stevenson, I only have them losing 2 conference games at night at Death Valley at the end of the year, and I have them losing to Oklahoma. And I do have them in my playoff, and I'll have a lot more on them earlier. But as far as the regular season goes, I just think they got too much of a gauntlet. And when it came down to tiebreakers, they were tied 3rd. So that's why they weren't on mine.
We've got a question in the YouTube chat. Hunter, one of your kin, is asking Pod 129 if Arch Manning is going to throw for over or under 4,200 yards this season.
Yeah, I think he meant to put 2,400. He does have a little bit of dyslexia because his line
Get off Prize Picks, Parker.
Well, the thing is I just looked that up when I saw it in the chat. I was going to ignore it, Tyler, and his over-under on FanDuel is 28.50.5. So, and I think the answer's under. Like, I'm just not sold on Hollywood Smothers either. Like, sorry, I think C.J. Baxter's better, and Kentucky got the better end of the stick on that one. But that's for another day. We're 40 minutes in, and we still got a lot to talk about. I knew that one was going to take up some time. I don't think this one will. The Big Ten, best conference in the land. I'll go first on this one, try and keep it short. I just think, I actually don't think these are the best 2 teams in the conference, but they're 2 of the 3 best, that's for sure. I think Indiana's going 12-0. I think they're just going to run this thing back real quick. They get Ohio State at home. I am selling all stock in Michigan right now. Like, sorry, I'm not selling stock in the program. I'm selling stock in Bryce Underwood. Sorry, I'm going to have to see this whole thing work out with him. And the only other questionable game I think for them is on the road at Washington after playing USC at home. And by that time, I just think Hoover and Sig are going to be rolling. Sig, what do you do when you have a big target on your back after going 16 and winning the Natty? Oh, I just bought a bigger gun. Somebody else had to have heard that quote on Part of My Take or seen it on the internet or something. But I'm just not betting against this guy. And they get Ohio State at home, so that's why I have them going 12-0. Outside of that, I think that is literally the only true losable game on their schedule. You could argue Michigan, USC, and Washington to me. I'm not buying it. You tell me I get Kurt Cignetti or Lincoln Riley for 60 minutes in the Big Ten, I'm going to take Kurt Cignetti. I get Kurt Cignetti or Jeb Fish, I'm taking Kurt Cignetti. And I get Josh Hoover versus Bryce Underwood, give me Josh Hoover. So that's kind of how I landed on all that. I have Indiana. No, I actually have Ohio State winning the Big Ten championship, though. Returning quarterback, I keep talking. I'm going to keep hammering the point of experienced quarterbacks. Now, I know he's only been at it 1 year, but, he's been there. This is going to be his 3rd year there altogether. He's got the best receiver in the country, and God knows however many that they have just sitting on the bench ready to go. I know Chris Henry Jr. is there. Brandon Ennis is there. You get your 2 Bo Jackson, who I think was a star. We all thought that was going to be like a CJ Henderson thing last year, and then here comes true freshman Bo Jackson rushing for 700 yards. I know they lose a lot on defense, and that's why I'm a little bit hesitant on them, and I do have them going 10-2. But I have them going 8-1 in the conference, so that's how, and they get the tiebreaker over Oregon. So that's how I ended up there for the Buckeyes. I just believe in Ryan Day. I believe in this offensive scheme. I know that they have Arthur Smith there, but I didn't think Matt Patricia was going to work out on defense last year, and we saw what happened. You get these NFL guys enough talent, I think they're going to know what they're doing in college football. So I believe in them. I have Ohio State winning the rematch. This one at a neutral site. I know it's in Indianapolis, so that might not quote unquote be a neutral site, but I know the Buckeye fans will show out, and I do think that they'll split with Indiana this year, 1-1.
Good stuff. I have Indiana and Oregon in my Big Ten title game. I have a lot to say about both of these teams. I'll save Oregon's content, I guess, for later slide. But Indiana, when I first started, right when the schedules came out, started looking at them before I started doing like my preseason preview, I was fully prepared to be one of the biggest Indiana haters in the world. But the more I dove into the schedule, the roster, obviously the coach, it's so hard to go like pick against them with what they're bringing back. They're reloading, and I think you could argue that this team is better and more equipped to win a national championship than they were last year. I'll start offensively. Hoover. I don't know if Hunt's still here or can still hear me, but I love Josh Hoover. I'm a Josh Hoover guy. I loved him at TCU last year. I had them in the Big 12 championship, and seeing him go to Indiana, it sucked because I'm an Indiana hater, but can't have my heart in it. Just got to see it as I see it. But he's the most experienced quarterback in college football. He's an NFL style guy, which I think the Big Ten, it's like the NFL style quarterback conference. Like all these guys, the SEC quarterbacks it's such a difference in quarterback style in both of these conferences. But side point, he's the active leader in passing yards and touchdowns. And like Hunter said, in this age of college football, experience is such a big deal, and we're probably going to bank on it throughout the entire season. And a lot of people's concerns with Hoover revolve around the turnovers, which is true. But last year, I mean, they threw the ball 50 to 60 times a game. A lot of times they were playing from behind. He had a lot of wide receiver injuries last year at TCU. And if you look at the way Sig designs his quarterbacks, like his offense, all of Mendoza's stuff was one read quick stuff last year, getting it to their guys in the flats, in the open, and letting them do the work. And I think that's what's going to help Hoover that much more. I think he's a better arm talent than Mendoza. I don't think he necessarily has the legs that Mendoza did, and I don't think he'll put his body on the line like Mendoza did a lot last year for that team, but more of a pocket passer. And I trust Cignetti to mold him into not turn the ball over as much. They bring in Turbo Richard from Boston College, running back. He was a starter last year for them. Losing Cooper and was it Elijah Surratt? That's tough. Both of those NFL guys. But Jack Becker returns. They bring in Nick Marsh from Michigan State. He had over 1,000 yards last year, and I think he led. I saw a stat. He led Michigan State in receptions, yards, and touchdowns in the past 2 seasons. So that's more experience that Indiana's bringing in. Sig sticking to just bringing in old guys with a lot of snaps. They bring in Shaz Preston. He was a wide receiver 1 at Tulane last year. So you can already see this theme. The guys that they're bringing in, they are starters. They have valuable snaps, and that's what Sig wants. Up front, 4 starters coming back on the offensive line. I think their linebackers, they're going to be the best unit in the country behind Georgia, I believe. I think Georgia's got a little bit better of a linebacker unit than Indiana, but both of their starters back. And then I saw this. Every defensive transfer they brought in was a starter in 2025, and that's just Cignetti's formula. We've seen it. And I believe, like I said earlier, I think this team is just as equipped as last year's squad to win the national championship. I've got them going 11-1 in the regular season, and I do have them winning the Big Ten title game against Oregon, and I'll get into Oregon a little later. So, yeah, Tyler?
Before you go, T, I got just one more thing on Indiana. So when they brought in Mendoza and Rourke, so Rourke from Ohio and then Mendoza from Cal, both of those guys struggled with turning the ball over. Like, Sig knows what he's doing, and they both got cut in half. And then also, I want to shout out Nick Marsh. That guy was a stud at Michigan State, just stuck in the wrong situation. And I think he is going to be a dog. And don't forget about Charlie B from Nashville, Tennessee now. he's going to be the go-to, and I can't wait to see what this team does this year.
Yeah, I have Ohio State, Oregon in a rematch from their earlier season game. I do have Ohio State going 12-0, running the table. I think that they are the most put together roster in the country, and I think that they're going to be ready to go. If they can't do it with this team, then there's something to say about that, in my opinion. So I know Ryan Day got his one already, but he's got to get one this year. Their roster's too talented. I do think Oregon is going to be the second best team. I like the veteran quarterback play from Dante Moore. I think that he is going to be able to lead their offense in a way that they need him to. I don't think their defense is going to be quite as good as it has been the past couple of years. However, I do think that their offense can overcome that. So that's why I have them there. And I do have Ohio State winning it. Again, I think their roster talent is just going to be a little bit too much for Dan Lanning to handle and game plan against.
You know what's crazy? Ohio State has not won the Big Ten since 2020. 6 years. It's been 6 years since they've won the Big Ten. Michigan in 21, 22, and 23, then Oregon in 24, then the Hoosiers last year.
That's wild.
That's wild to think about, is it not? Oh, man. But they did get that natty 2 years ago. All right. Well, we're done. We made it through conference championships. Just to recap, I got Texas Tech, Miami, Georgia, and Ohio State. Good. Oh, yes, I did have Ohio State. That's right. Winning their respective conferences. Jake has BYU, Miami, Ole Miss, and Indiana. And Tyler has BYU, Miami, Georgia, and Ohio State. And now it's time to get into the playoff brackets that we take at least I'm going to speak for Jake and myself. We spend way too much time trying to figure out. And mine was like partially narrative, and I'll get into that in a little bit. And then we also have some Heisman picks at the end. So, Jake, it's all you for the next little bit, brother. So I'm going to let you just go at it.
All right. I'm not going to take too much time on this just because, it's fun to do this preseason, but it's also so hard, and there's no way that none of us are going to get it right. So I'll kind of go through and touch on where my head was at. Like you said, Hunter, the narrative aspect is what's so hard about this. That's what makes this so hard, is you want the narratives to be there in a sense. The start, I would just go 1 through 12. Number 1, Notre Dame. I think they go 12-0. They'll be at the top in the top 5 all year, and I think they're the only team that goes 12-0 this year outside of maybe Texas Tech, which would be so weird if we got this, Hunter, because Notre Dame going 12-0, not playing in a conference title game. So they'll probably be the number 1 seed in the playoff if that's how it happens. If Texas Tech goes 13-0 and wins a Big 12, we're gonna live in a world where all offseason the talk has been Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, Miami. And in that case, you'd have to put those 2 at the top. Like that'd be so weird to see Notre Dame and Texas Tech 1 and 2 with all these other teams. But anyways, I have Notre Dame at the 1, Miami at number 2. I think I had them losing 1. Oh yeah, Notre Dame. So they go 12-1, win the ACC finally. It's also so weird to talk about Miami because, you had the Cam Ward year 2 years ago. You had Carson Beck last year, made it to the national championship. And then now you're bringing in Darian Mensah. And it feels like Miami, everybody's picking them to win the ACC. Everybody is talking about how the U is back and all this. And they still haven't won the damn conference yet, which is just crazy. They didn't win the conference last year. They didn't win it the year before. That's just wild to me. Number 3, I have Indiana. I already talked about them. Ole Miss at number 4, winning the SEC. And then this is where it gets dicey. So I had BYU at 5 as my Big 12 winner. And then 6, I put Texas Tech. I had them winning. I had them going 12-0 and then losing to BYU. I think is how I landed on that. 7, Oklahoma as the SEC runner-up. And then I had Oregon as the Big Ten runner-up. And then here comes my at-large picks. I had LSU. I'm with y'all on this. I think it's a lot of change. It's a lot of turnover. But LSU, with the resources, with the coach, with the quarterback, the receiver, I'm excited to watch Jace Brown, the Kansas State wide receiver transfer. He's going to be really good. They brought in guys from defense. I mean, hell, they might have Bijan playing running back for them. With the way things are going right now, bringing guys back from the NFL, it's just crazy. I like LSU. I think they're going to get the playoff in the first year. And in this scenario, you could see LSU and Ole Miss in a rematch in the college football playoff. That'd be so cool. Then my 10 seed, I have Ohio State. I have them going 10-2 and slipping in. Then I have Georgia as my last at large at 11. They're 10-2 in this scenario as well. And then UNLV as my G5. Look, Dan Mullen's been close. Every year they've been good with him there. And they bring in Jackson Arnold with the experience he's got. And he's going to be going through a Mountain West Conference who lost teams like San Diego State. They bring in North Dakota State. The schedule's really easy. And I have to go back and look at their schedule, but their first 2 games are like their toughest games. They open up with Memphis. I believe that's a week 0 game. And I forgot who they play in week 2. Oh, they go to the island in week 2, Hunter. My G5 pick. They play Hawaii week 2, midnight. Can't wait. We're so back. I'm not going to sit here and talk about UNLV for 10 minutes. They're my G5 pick. Jackson Arnold doesn't work out. We got Alex Orji as the backup, which is crazy. And they're posting Twitter clips about this guy. I think UNLV is the G5 team. So that's the field for me. If you want to go ahead and go to the next, Hunter. This is how I see it panning out. My final 4, Oregon. I think this is Oregon's breakthrough year. Ole Miss. This is what sucks is when you're making this, when you're projecting all this stuff, you try to make it to where we get really good games across the board. But it's impossible because with the G5 factor, the Big 12 kind of being the meh conference. I mean, Miami, but they're the top of – I think they're much better than Texas Tech. Like, there's always going to be that bottom corner of the bracket that not everybody's interested in this format, I believe, just with how you have a G5 team in there. So, like, this bracket – BYU playing UNLV in week 1 or the first round. Nobody's going to watch that shit. And then the second round, Ole Miss and BYU, that'll be belt to ass. Like there's no way you can make this work realistically where these games are interesting. All of them are interesting. So anyways, and then the right side, I have Georgia beating Texas Tech. And then the matchup I have to see. I want this matchup so bad. I want it more than anything. I have to see Kirby Smart and Cignetti in a playoff game. All the week leading up to it, the media and all that around it is just going to be insane. Because Sig's going to talk. There's no way he doesn't talk his shit playing against Kirby Smart in the first coaching matchup. That just wouldn't be simple. I have to see it. And then I do have Miami beating Oklahoma. That was a tough one for me. I almost pulled the trigger on it, Hunt. But I don't believe that there are 3 teams in the SEC that's going to be in the Final Four. It was hard to put 2 in there. I still believe that the Big Ten are on top. We haven't even discussed this, but we do live in a world where the Big Ten is on top of college football right now. So that's my Final Four: Miami, Oregon, Georgia, Ole Miss. I do believe 3 of those teams are the best and 3 of the best in the country. I don't believe Ole Miss is, but I believe that it could be some more magic from Trinidad Chambliss, who I believe is going to be the Heisman winner. Little spoiler. And then I have Miami win the national championship. I think they're the best team in the country. I think these are the best 2 teams in the country, the best rosters, the most experienced, the best transfers coming in. Both of these guys are so close to breaking through. And I think Cristobal, he's been there before, which Dan Lanning has too. He's so close. And I wanted to read you guys this about Oregon, just about how close they are, which you could say that about a lot of coaches, but since over the past 4 seasons, Dan Lanning with Oregon is 48-8. Over those 4 seasons, Ohio State is also 48-8. They've won a national championship. Michigan's 45-10. They won a national championship. Indiana's 34-19, and they've won a national championship. They have been so close every year, and they just seem to fold at the wrong time. And another little nugget for you. Their last loss to someone, Oregon's, who wasn't playing for the national championship, was Oregon State in 2022. That just goes to show, they've been right there. And I believe Dante Moore and his experience alone, he's eventually the big game thing. I think he's going to grow out of it. I do. I believe he had some growing pains last year, and the injuries with Evan Stewart and DeCorian Moore last year hurt him as a quarterback just because his top options weren't there. But their defense is scary. and I think they're going to make it a national championship. And I have full belief in one of these teams being there at the end of the season. I really do. I think they're the best two. And I got the U, all about the U whisper. Some are saying I'm the U whisper. And I wouldn't put it past me to show up in my wedding in a Miami Carson Beck jersey. That's all I'm going to say.
Big T, lay it on us, brother.
All right. My number 1 seed is going to be Ohio State. Again, I have them going 12-0 and running the table. I do believe that they really 13-0 after the conference title game. So I do believe that they will be the 1 seed. I do have Georgia going in as the 2 seed. Kind of 2 through 4 here. You could kind of shuffle around for me. This was just kind of how I saw it. SEC champion. I figured that, the top 2 conferences in football, their top 2 teams are going to be 1 and 2. So I do have Georgia at the 2. Notre Dame, I think that they are 11-1 going into the playoff. I do think they lose to Miami in the regular season. So I have them at the 3. And then I do have Miami at the 4. I think that the committee might have a little bit of Notre Dame bias this year. So yeah, I've got them there. Again, those are kind of whatever. You can kind of slide those wherever. But this is how I see it panning out for right now. Let's see, where am I at? 5, I have Oregon. I do believe that they're going to be the strongest conference runner-up in the country. And then let's see, where am I at now? Indiana at 6. I do believe that they are going to be just on the outside of the conference title game, so I do believe that they will slide into the 6th spot there. BYU at 7 as the Big 12 champs. Again, kind of the same thing. Texas, I do have them on the outside of the conference title game. I think they get in. I think, again, Arch can get most of it done, and I see them around that 10-2 spot getting into the playoff. And then LSU, after they lose to Georgia, I think they do drop them a couple spots after the SEC title game, sliding in at 9, Texas Tech at 10, Big 12 runner-ups. And then 11 is going to be Louisville. I think that with their resume, I think they're 11-2 going into the playoff. I think that they will get into the bracket. And then my G5 is going to be Boise State. So I feel like that was kind of a chalky pick, safe pick for me to just go ahead and pencil them in there. So that is where I see it lining up. So playing through the first 2 rounds, I do think that LSU will be able to beat Texas. Again, I don't trust Sark or Arch in a big game scenario yet. I'm still not sold on it, and it's going to take a lot to convince me otherwise. Let's see, going to the bottom, pretty self-explanatory. Oregon beating Boise State. I do have Indiana beating Louisville. I think Indiana's team is going to be too talented for Louisville to keep up with, especially Louisville playing an SEC schedule all year, an ACC schedule all year. Don't think they'll be ready to get hit in the mouth by Cignetti. And then BYU, I do think they win in a rematch with Texas Tech. I think they go 2-0 against them. Again, don't know who's going to be the quarterback for Texas Tech by that time, and I just don't have faith in that. I have more faith in that BYU roster and their returning starters. Going back to the other side, Lane Kiffin against Ryan Day. I do see Ohio State prevailing there. Again, I'm all in on Ohio State this year. I think they're going to be a very good ball team. Let's see. Miami, Oregon. Jake, you kind of touched on this, but they've been so close, and I think this is a year that they can put it all together and make a run. Again, I'm high on Dante Moore. I think that he's going to be great, and I think that they get the win against Miami. BYU, they're not going to be able to handle SEC ball. I do see Georgia taking care of business pretty easily. I know we as in Georgia have a lot of bad history with playing right after a bye, especially in that playoff. So don't really, that's kind of, it scares me, but the way that my bracket laid out, them playing BYU, I do feel safe in picking them. And then I have Notre Dame being able to take care of business against Indiana. I think that they're going to be sitting in there at, again, 11-1, and Indiana just coming off of a game against Louisville. I think that Notre Dame can be fresh. I think that they're going to have a really good, talented roster. CJ Carr's going to be in the running for Heisman. So I do have them winning that. And my Final Four shaping up. Hunter, I know we talked about it earlier. This thing could feed families. Ohio State, Oregon playing again, and Georgia, Notre Dame, rematch from 2 years ago. And I do have Notre Dame taking care of business against Georgia. I don't think that Gunnar Stockton's going to be able to quite get it done there. I like, again, CJ Carr. I'm trying not to have bias. I would have loved to pick Georgia to win the whole damn thing. But, as a ball knower, not a fan, I'm going to pick Notre Dame to win there. And then Ohio State, Oregon. Again, all my chips are on Ohio State this year. Sayan is, as you'll find out later, I think he's probably a top 3 player in the country. I think Jeremiah Smith is also a top 3 player in the country. Their defense, I'm a little questionable about their defensive line, but I think that they'll get it taken care of. Their secondary, I think, is going to be fine as well, and I think they can handle the Oregon offense. I think it'll be a close game. It'll be a good ball game to watch, but I do have Ohio State prevailing there. And again, all in, give me the Buckeyes to take it home. CJ Carr might just be too young to win a national title against the very talented Ohio State team. So I guess go Buckeyes.
Good stuff, T. Now it's time for mine. And I would like to say I've tried to chip away at this. I think I've had probably over 200 different bracket variations in the past week, like just trying to figure this out. And I'm like, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because I'm not going to get it right, but I'm going to try. I've also had a lot of different Final Four variations, but I'll get to that in a second. So I got Notre Dame undefeated as the 1 seed. So I would just imagine I have everybody else on this list taking a loss. So they're all going to be behind Notre Dame. 2 seed, I got Georgia at 12-1 SEC champ. I have Ohio State at 3 at 11-2 Big Ten champ, and Indiana at 12-1 Big Ten runner-up. Those are my 4 teams with a bye. I got Miami at 12-1 with winning the ACC. I got Oregon just on that outside looking in. Like they won 11-1, lost a conference game, and lost a tiebreaker, so they're just right there on the outside looking in. But they get the 6th seed. OU being the SEC runner-up at 7. Texas Tech winning the Big 12 at 8. LSU at 9. Is it playoff or bust for Lane? I've seen this conversation topic circling around. I'd like to know what you two think. Is it playoff or bust for Lane?
I don't think so. I can see why you can definitely argue that. I think it's harsh to an extent for any coach coming into a new program, brand new players, brand new across the board for the most part, and expect, especially in the SEC, for it to be a playoff or bust. But with that being said, the roster, the guys he's bringing in, we still have 2 weeks till we strap them up. Like there's no telling who could get a TRO and come back and old Lane could bring in. Like I don't think it's playoff or bust just because of him being in the SEC. It's a big expectation. But I can see why. I understand why just with who he is as a coach. That's a compliment to who he is and the success he had at Ole Miss as a coach. But I wouldn't say it's playoff or bust.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily playoff or bust. I think that it's have a good season. Like you got to win 9-10 games, absolutely. But don't think they have to get in the playoff for them to, deem it a successful season necessarily. Yet, think it gets to that point. Not yet, though.
For sure. I know they did bring in 50 or 60 new guys, and I haven't really talked about LSU. I think it's going to be one of those things that takes a second to gel, and then in November you're going to be like, oh gosh, I don't want to play this team right now. And that's why I have them at 9, Texas at 10, because I think Texas goes on the road and loses in Death Valley in November. But, like, if you told me Ole Miss or somebody else clipped them or like Auburn, they play Auburn at the end of September, 1st of October, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think it's just going to take a second. You don't want to see them late in the year after this team of 50, 60 new transfers all gel together. LSU 9, Texas at 10, got a Red River rivalry rematch at 7-10 in this little SEC triad I got up there in the top right. 11, I have BYU just sneaking in. I mean, did they really get hoed last year? Probably not, but you could definitely make the argument that they got hoed. They had to play that extra game. They would have been in if they didn't have to play that extra game. It's weird how that works. So I think they got 11-1. Hard to leave a team out that goes 11-1 and plays that extra game, right? They were 10-2 last year and played the extra game, made a little bit more sense. And then I just kind of penciled Boise State in there at the bottom left at the 12 seed. All right, so I'll start in the top left. I have LSU going on the road to Lubbock and winning a playoff game. I like Sam Levitt's experience. It's going to be his third year as a starting quarterback. As you're going to see a common theme here, experience matters. And then I have Notre Dame ultimately getting the win over LSU here. One thing I do want to note, teams in the 12-team format, and I've only done it twice, so the sample size might not be that big, but their teams with a bye are 1-7. The only team to win with a bye was last year's Indiana team. So I'm going to need to see some things change before I really do you really want the bye? That it's one of those things like I'm going to need to see, especially some of these repeat coaches like Kirby Smart, dude, guy goes down to New Orleans 2 years in a row and loses. Pretty nuts right there. Cause you want to be the highest ranked team, right? But then you see this playoff format and how it's turned out. Do you really want to be a top 4 seed? I don't know. Miami, they're going to take care of Boise State down in Coral Gables. And then I think here it comes. We got a national championship rematch here, Indiana, Miami. And I think Miami, I know Indiana had the bye last year. They're the only team to kind of displace this theory, but I think Miami gets revenge here, have their feet under them. And I do think Darian Mensah, Mark Fletcher, I know we've already honed in on them, but I think Miami is just a phenomenal team, and they'll get their look back from last year. Top right, I will say I really wanted to put Oklahoma in the Final Four. I really wanted to do it, guys. I'm just so confident that the winner of that game, the top right, is going to beat Georgia in the second round. Because I got to see it, Kirby. Got to see it. So you can fill in whoever you want. The winner of that game is going to be in the Final Four, and I really wanted it to be Oklahoma, but I'm a man of principle, taking the bias out of it. As a ball knower, not a fan, right, Tyler?
Yes. That would be the gotta see it game, because you talking about Kirby with having the bye and everything, but Texas, I got to see them put up 4 quarters of good football and beat Georgia. That would be a great.
No, it would be. I mean, and just coming off a rivalry game in the first round of the playoff, But I do have Sark winning that one. I got Oklahoma winning in the regular season at a neutral, and I have them losing at home to Texas in this one. I think Texas is also going to be a team you don't want to see late in the year. And I got Texas beating Georgia, which I know is a very unpopular opinion. But, Kirby couldn't beat Saban, until he did. It's not that they can't do it. They just haven't done it yet. So I'm going to roll with that theory and have Sark over Kirby in that one. And then in the bottom right, I got Oregon BYU, and I think it is going to be straight belt to Heine there. Give me the Ducks, and then the Ducks get revenge after their regular season loss to Ohio State. I think they get them in the playoff when it matters more, and they avenge their only loss of the year. And Ryan Day, another coach, had a bye last year, lost to Miami when the lights were the brightest. Which, another thing I want to say, these second-round games should be at home. These should be on campus. I don't think it's really fair to the top 4 seeds, but that's a story for another day. So my Final Four, Notre Dame, Texas, Oregon, Miami. I had a lot of variations of the Final Four. I really just knew I wanted Oregon, I wanted Texas, I wanted Miami, and then you could kind of throw in Ohio State, Notre Dame, Georgia in there. But those are really the teams I was trying to hone in on. I let that Todd McShay, Brandon Walker podcast get to my head, but he did throw out some really good facts at the end there that make you think, wow, experienced quarterback, where they're getting drafted at. You look at the past 5 or 10 national champions, how many teams were drafted, where were they at in the preseason. So that's kind of how it ended up right here, because Oregon and Texas both have 6 players ranked in the top 115 of the draft preseason. Ohio State is another one, and then Miami and Notre Dame were both sitting there with 5. So that's how I ended up there. I got Ducks. I got the Hurricanes. Miami avenging their loss from the regular season. They get them at a neutral site this time and not in South Bend and get the win. Give me Dan Lanning and Sark over Sark in this one, and the two biggest what if coaches. Like, what if they just got over the hump game? Got to see it. Like, which one's going to get over that hump and make it to the national championship? And give me the Ducks to win. Mario Cristobal comes up just short yet again. I think the Ducks. I mean, how many players could they have gone and got drafted this past draft in 2026 that all said we're running it back? It reminds me of that Ohio State team from a few years ago. It reminds me of the Georgia team from 2022. And Dan Lanning has built this team. They are just so deep on defense. I think the defense is going to be nasty. They're deep at the running back position. And this is Dante Moore's third year starting. He started 1 year at UCLA, then sat. Now it's his second year starting at Oregon. And I know he quote unquote didn't play the best in big games. Like, yeah, that Indiana game, that second time around last year was really bad. But I think, like you said, Jake, he's going to grow out of it. I think he's too talented not to. He would have been a top 2 quarterback drafted, and those guys tend to know ball a lot more than we do. So I got the Ducks, the 4th Big Ten team, different one in 4 years. Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana. Now I think Dan Lanning gets over the hump. And the Mario Cristobal Bowl. For all the DGens out there, and the recap, I took Oregon, they're plus 700. Jake took Miami at plus 1,100, and Tyler took Ohio State, they're plus 550, the odds-on favorite right now. These are 3 of the top 7 in odds. I have no arguments for my 2 counterparts here. I think there are 6 teams that can win the national championship this year, and those other 2 are great options. Like, I really wanted to pick Miami to win it. I really kind of wanted to pick Notre Dame to win it 2 weeks ago when I sent my bracket out to Carter and Jake. I was like, I got Notre Dame. Like, I was so high on Notre Dame, but I think ultimately what paying me away from them was just they're not going to be battle tested throughout the year. And when the going gets tough, do I believe that team can beat 4 playoff teams to win a national championship? I don't think so. So that's how I landed there. Any other thoughts from you guys before we get to Heisman?
I didn't really get to say much about Ohio State, and I wanted to bring them up just because, like, I feel like I just did not speak of them at all. They're not in my Big Ten title game. But, and Tyler, I know you're high on them, so you can respond or whatever. But my concern, so they lost 11 guys at the draft. And the 2 biggest concerns I have 3. One, Carnell Tate, losing him, not having that like a big 1-2 option. Ohio State has always been known to have a 1 and 2 who are just freaky and the best in the country. And they still have Jeremiah Smith. They still have guys like Brandon Ennis, Bo Jackson's running back. He's going to be good. He was a star freshman breakout last year. But I'm interested to see teams are going to double Jeremiah Smith. So who is going to be that number 2 option for them? And I'm already kind of have my doubts with saying in big games. I'm looking to see him he needs to take a big jump this year from last year. And then defensively, losing Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles of the draft, the 2 best 1-2 linebackers in the country last year, that's really hard when that's the center. That's the quarterbacks of the defense, losing those 2 guys. And I believe just looking into their defense, I think they take somewhat of a baby step backwards on defense this year. And then their schedule, I want to talk about that. You look at Ohio State's schedule, and it's kind of the Texas thing for me, the same kind of concern. They have games at Texas, at Iowa, at Indiana, at USC, and then they get Oregon and Michigan at home, and that's 6. And so you're kind of banking on them to win 4 out of 6 of those. I'm more confident in them winning 4 out of 6 of those games than I am with Texas. Of their 6-game stretch, it's really tough, but the schedule's very, very hard for them. And I believe if they do, go 10-2, 11-1 and survive that stretch, they are going to be well-oiled to win playoff games and, make another national championship run. But I think just losing those 2 linebackers in the middle defensively and the wide receiver room, and who's to say, I mean, I don't want to project this, but if Smith goes down, who's the wide receiver option, number 1 guy, which it is Ohio State. They're going to have 5-star guys. But that's just kind of where I'm at with Ohio State and why I'm kind of lower on them this year.
Yeah, I think that's totally valid. I do think that Brandon Ennis is going to be the number 2 guy. I mean, I would imagine, and I think that them having that 1-2 punch again. I do agree that Jeremiah Smith is going to be doubled most of the year. I still think he'll be able to have production there, and Brandon Ennis can kind of fill in that role of the second guy that's going to have a lot of yards. He's going to score a lot because he's not getting as much attention. But the Bo Jackson, I know you mentioned him just a second ago as well. I think that he's going to be pretty much the most important factor of the offense. Not that he's the X factor of that offense, but he's going to be what makes or breaks it. And I think that he has the talent to do so. I think Sayan can make the throws he needs to make. I think he can lead the offense. And again, on your point of the defense, I think personally that the offense can overcome it. I do believe in Bo Jackson again, so I think that they can get it done. And I don't think they're taking a huge step back. It might, like you said, a baby step, yeah, but I do think that they can overcome that and be okay with the way their offense should look.
Anything else? I mean, I already hit on Ohio State and everything, so I do have one thing. This is from the chat from Mike Ken. Will Kalen DeBoer be fired if he doesn't make the playoff this year?
If they go 10-2 or 9-3, and they're anywhere from 12 to 20, 12 to like 17, I think he's safe. But if they go 8-4, 9-3, especially, I think 8-4 he's canned. I do not think Alabama donors, all the deep-rooted Alabama people, the fans are going to want to run his ass out of town. I don't think, because this is his first year with like his team. These are his guys. These are the guys that he's recruited and brought in. This is his roster, his coaching staff. Like, I'm low on him personally. I think I have him go. I haven't like completely figured out what I have him finishing up at, but I'm around that 8-4, 9-3 mark. We haven't really talked about win totals on this show so far, but I believe
next week, or later this week. This week. Totals.
So yeah, 8-4. I think he's canned.
I don't think he's canned 8-4. It depends on what the 4 are. Like,
yeah.
Okay, like if he loses to Kentucky in week 2, which is
watch that game.
That is not out of the realm of possibilities. I kind of like Will Stein and Kenny Mitchie. You got CJ Baxter, you got Nick Anderson at wide receiver. I know way too much about Kentucky football because I legit think they can win that game. Not gonna sit up here and say I got the nuts to say it, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. But like if they lose to Kentucky, and then my boy Ashley Daniels goes into Tuscaloosa the next week, and they win, and Alabama starts out 1-2, yeah, that guy's gonna get canned. Like, or even if they win, but they lose to Lenoris in week 4, like that's not an acceptable loss. Like, I'm not even going to entertain the idea of Mississippi State, but like if their 4 losses are to Georgia, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and LSU, no, he's not going to get canned. Let's say they like beat Georgia, they lose to LSU, or here you go. If they lose to Georgia, Auburn, and LSU and Tennessee all in the same year, he's getting canned because you don't lose to your 4 rivals. But at the same time, they just gave him a contract extension. That buyout just got jumped way up. So it's actually, this is a very good question. We could do an entire episode on this shit right here. But good question, Parker. Tyler, I'll let you kind of add into that. But last thing, I don't think he'll get fired. Not if he misses the playoff. And honestly, it depends on what the 4 are. But if you lose to all 4 of your rivals and half of those are at home, not going to be good.
So when you first put that on the screen, I said absolutely. I think that he would be. But now that I kind of gathered my thoughts a little bit more and just stopped jumping straight off the ship, I do think what you said about the contract extension is a real thing. I didn't even consider – that didn't even exist in my mind. So I don't know if they're going to want to pay the buyout to get him out of there that soon just because he didn't make the playoffs. So, yeah, I think you kind of swayed me a little bit with what you said. I think that is a very good point, and so maybe not.
I think regardless of what their final record is, unless they were to like pull a Clemson, I don't think they will. I think they're going to be anywhere from 7 at worst to 11. if they were to fire him, it would be the most like SEC firing, like Southern football firing of a coach ever. They will literally run his ass out of town. And I'll go ahead and answer what just popped up on the screen. I think Clemson's they're too hard-headed to fire him. I think they just love that guy so much, which it is hard. Like Georgia had the same kind of issue with Mark Richt. Like, how long are we going to hold on to this guy? We love him. He's a great man, great leader of men, but he's got to change with the game. He's got to get in the portal, and he doubled down on this year and didn't get back in the portal. He wants to keep recruiting, which is fine. It's just hadn't been proven to be successful for them. Do y'all know who Clemson's quarterback is?
Christopher Vizina.
See, like I couldn't have told you that. Like, that's crazy that we're in a world where like Clemson, they're just not being talked about. I think if Dabo goes, I think the number's 6. If they were to miss a bowl game or be like 6-6, right on the cusp of it, there might be some conversations had. But I think he's staying. I think he's got like at least 2 more seasons. I do.
I'll just say this about this one right here. I think it's more likely that Lincoln Riley gets fired from USC after going 7-5 and 8-4, and Kalen DeBoer takes the USC job than Alabama fires him this year. I think legit Kalen DeBoer would have to only win 6 games. I think it's more likely he will take another job. As far as Dabo, no, Dabo's just going to he's going to get buried on the field. Like, Clemson's just not going to can this guy. Parker says he has 5 years left on his deal. Thanks for doing that research for us, Parker. We appreciate it. But no, I think legit Clemson could go 4-8 this year, and they'll be like, all right, better luck next year. They ain't going to fire him. I genuinely believe that. And also, I can't really get mad at him for not trying to use the portal as much, because this year he tried with that linebacker from Cal. He had a kid on campus that he got from the portal, paid NIL money to, taking classes, and then he left because he could. It's like, I get why he, like, the one time he tries, this is what happens. I could see how that could affect somebody. So, but no, Dabo will not be canned. Not even close.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to take him leaving there, and I don't think he's doing it. So he'll be there for the foreseeable future.
I could just see Dabo getting like tired with all the BS of college football and just retiring and going into ministry or something straight up. Anyways, thanks for those questions, Parker. Keep them to a minimum. We're getting into Heisman talk now. All right. Tyler, I'll let you go first. You get into Julian Sayin.
I've got Julian Sayin taking it home. Again, I think when you're going to be the best player on the best team, that I said it last year. I think that's the recipe for winning the Heisman. I do think on the finalist side, Quan Lacey, I think he's going to have a great year. They're going to have to play through him, and his statistics are going to get him in there. In my opinion, I think Arch Manning is the popular vote. So I think the Heisman does have a little bit of popularity contest that goes on with it. And so I think he gets in as a finalist. And I have Darian Mensah here. Hunter, I know I texted this to you. I don't even know what day it was, but I could see Jeremiah Smith also being here, 2 Ohio State players. I mean, that'd be crazy, but could see it happening. But could be Mensah, could be Jeremiah Smith, either or. I think it's just a fill-in to place probably 4th. So,
yeah, no, good value there. If anybody wants to dive in on plus 12,500 for Kewan Lacey, but Tyler's rolling with Julian Sayin at plus 1,300, 5th best odds on. I don't know how I know that, but just on a website that I'm looking at right now. Anyways, I'm going with Darian Mensah, and I don't have an Ohio State player on my right-hand side because I think Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith are just going to steal votes from each other at the end of the day. I think that's what it comes down to. It's one of those, it's hard to choose which one you're going to vote for when they're both very talented and going to be having their names in the hat. But guys, I said earlier, I think Miami goes 11-1. They could very easily go 12-0. Like, you can, if you go back to my bracket, if you want to switch wherever Miami Notre Dame are, I think I told Tyler this and I told Jake this. My hot take of the season is the winning quarterback of the Miami Notre Dame game will win the Heisman Trophy. Truthfully believe that. I think so much attention is going to be brought onto Malachi Tony. I know he's another good name that you could potentially throw on this list if you're looking for a non-quarterback. So much attention is going to be brought on him, but people forget that Cooper Barkate was a 1,000-yard receiver at Harvard 2 years ago. He was Darian Mintz's number one guy at Duke last year, so there's chemistry there. And now he's going to have a lot of room to shine with all the attention being brought to Malachi Tony. Plus, a good quarterback, in order to put up good throwing numbers, you have to have a good run game. And they got Mark Fletcher back there holding down the fort. And I think this guy's going to be able to sling it all over the yard. There's not going to be a lot of competition for Miami, in my opinion, outside that Notre Dame game this year. I think they do have to go to Clemson, but I think the winner of that game, the winner of the Miami Notre Dame game, the quarterback will win the Heisman Trophy, even though in this entire video I've said Notre Dame's going to beat Miami. So I still believe Darian Mintz is going to win it regardless. CJ Carr, I got Notre Dame going undefeated, but the only thing that's holding me back on them is that they might be winning in a lot of blowouts. And we saw this at the end of last year where Kenny Minchie just kind of came in at the end and did his own thing. So they might just get the backup in there and rest in Carr or whatever. But I think he's going to be good in the NFL. He'll be there at the end. Josh Hoover, I have Indiana going undefeated. I just don't think he's going to put up as good of numbers. And let's be honest here, like Mendoza's numbers might not have like jumped off the stat sheet, but everybody knew like Indiana was not doing what they were doing last year without him. Whereas I think just Mintz's numbers are going to jump off the stat sheet. And then I got Dante Moore in there. I think he could definitely throw his name in the hat. I'm just very confident this is going to be a quarterback award this year. There are so many good quarterbacks in this in the country this year. I mean, you could just go through an entire list, and there's a lot of names that we don't even have on here. Like, you know, I know Jake has Trinidad Chambliss. He's another good one, but I just think it's going to be a quarterback award, and I think Mintz has got the tools and the schedule and the team around him to win it. First time since Vinny Testaverde for University of Miami.
Yep. Hunter, I was going to bring that up. Like, there's so many good quarterbacks this year and so many names that we haven't even said tonight. Like, we haven't said Marcel Reed's name. We haven't talked about Jaden Maiava.
Oh, dude, no. There's no way you just – no.
No, we're not starting this. I'm not going to start this.
There's no way you just said there's so many good quarterbacks out there, and the first name you said is Marcel Reed.
Yes.
No. Lenore Sellers would have been a much more acceptable answer.
Well, we said Lenore Sellers' name.
I know, but dang, dude. God, I'd take Keelan Russell over Marcel Reed.
All right, that's ridiculous.
I'd take Malik Washington at Maryland over Marcel Reed. I'd take Rocco Becht at Penn State over Marcel Reed.
That's another good name, another good team we didn't talk about either.
Damon Williams Jr., Byron Brown, Jared Kiave Sagapola-Tele. I just really wanted to say his name. Nico Iamaleava. I'd take him over Marcel Reed too. All right, Jake. Sorry. Go ahead.
Anyways, I have Trinidad Chambliss. I think he's just when you think of just all time, like most college quarterback guy, he's the guy. The narrative's there, the story's there. I think what's going to make him so special this season and kind of remove himself from these other three guys in my head is he doesn't have the weapons that the other three guys have, Mensa, Hoover, and Moore. But I think he is so good with his legs, so good at extending plays and being successful at it and making the guys around him better. And if in my head, the way that I see the SEC playing out, he's the SEC. I mean, he leads Ole Miss to an SEC championship. He's going to be in that conversation. So I have Trinidad Chambliss and my other three, Darren Mensa, Hoover, Dante Moore. I think those are the best four in the country, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Sorry, Jake. I didn't mean to jump the gun like that.
That was hateful.
But no, I'm like looking at names on this Heisman list, like Drew Mestamaker. We did not talk about that guy at all. He could lead the country in passing yards this year. But there's a lot of good names on here. We didn't talk much about Gunnar Stockton, but nah, man, I think Chambliss is going to be good. Jake, I didn't talk a lot about Ole Miss. The only reason I'll just keep this short and sweet. The only reason I'm a little low on him is I just refuse to believe you lose a top 10 head coach and your play caller and maintain that much success. And I also stand on business that Nick Saban fired Pete Golding for a reason. That's just kind of where I'm at with it. So that'll do it, fellas. Good episode. Go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, we're an hour and a half in, but I did before the show started, I wrote down 5 or 6 things.
Yeah.
Just heavy hitter topics.
Let's go. I'm here all night.
Because this is the big preview episode, and I just want these are a little bit more. I mean, they're more fun than what we've been talking about, I guess. This is one note I put. I think there's a team every year that we talk about. It's the year before the year. I don't remember who it has been the past 2 years, but I know that me and Hunter have discussed it. My team for the year before, my pick for year before the year team in 2026 is Michigan. I think that they're 1 year away, and I think next year, in Underwood's third year, it's gonna be the year for them, and they'll be back at the top of the Big Ten. Are there any teams that you guys could see pulling an LSU, Clemson, or Penn State behavior or season from last year? Off the top of my head, I have maybe not to the extent of a few of those like Clemson, but Texas and Ohio State because the schedule alone. The rosters are amazing, both top 5 rosters in the country. I just think both of them have 6 games where I just don't know. I don't have full confidence in them winning. Those are the 2 I have off the top of my
head. Jake, for year before the year, what is there a certain criteria that
there's not? No, it's just the year before the year, and Michigan is that vibe for me.
So if a team makes the playoff, but the year before the year, they really make a run.
I wouldn't count that as a year before the year.
Okay, because I was gonna be like LSU. Because I think they'll make the playoff, but next year I think they're gonna be very good. Michigan is probably the best answer on the board. I'm gonna go with Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee.
I'm gonna go with Tennessee. You could also argue Florida, but I like Tennessee because even if they start Faison Brandon this year,
have they named him the starter yet? No,
I haven't read that anywhere. I think Tennessee could be the year before the year because I think Bishop's still a great running back, and this team they could go 7-5, but they can still compete with the Texas, the Georgia, the LSU's. I think they can be right there in it with all of these teams. They're just not quite there yet. It's like they almost have everything else figured out except for that experience at quarterback, and that's what's holding me back from having them in that next tier. And I'll say Alabama. I'll say Alabama year before the year. I'll also Kentucky if we're just staking on SEC teams, but I'm not trying to do that. But my main answer will be Tennessee, but I'll hear an argument for Alabama too.
I like Oklahoma State too.
No, because Mastermaker's going to be gone next year.
But he could stay. He could.
All right.
Tim. And if you listen, did y'all listen to his interview with Blutman?
I haven't listened to it yet. No,
you should. He seems like cool guy, but he's just not what I expected. He seems very goofball.
Oh, okay. Actually, I don't want to say it because I think Tyler might be using this answer, but I have another team, but go T.
I don't think we have the same team. My number one answer is Michigan as well. But what about Cal?
That's who I was going to say. I was going to say Cal.
I like that.
Yeah.
My boy JP Saga Polotele is on the come up. Watch out.
Hey, top 5 quarterback, arguably top 2 in the ACC this year, some are saying. All right, Jake, what was your next question? Is there a team like an LSU or a Penn State where they just have a massive fall off high expectations? Yeah, Oklahoma. I'll say it. Their win total 7.5 or 8. It might be 8.5. Same thing with Ole Miss. Because I think Ole Miss and Oklahoma, they're like the same team where they had really good years last year, a lot of closer game victories. But I think that win total speaks volumes, right? Because it's only even both these teams made the playoffs. One was a top 8 seed. The other one made the Final Four. And their win total, Ole Miss is 7.5. I think Oklahoma's 8.5. Definitely could just fall off the rails for both of these teams. Who's to say Oklahoma doesn't go into Michigan and lose in week 2, And then they lose to Georgia, then they lose to Texas, and you're already at 3 losses. You could lose to Ole Miss. You could go on the road and lose to Florida. Those are all such losable games. You look down at the end of the year, and it's dang, we just went 7-5. Which that's not a losing season, but when you have the expectation of make the playoff and everybody's kind of banking on that for you, I think it definitely could be them, especially after their coach just got a contract extension. So,
Yeah.
My team would be Ole Miss. Pete Golding hasn't proved anything to me. I know, Hunter, you touched on it just a minute ago, but not confident in him. Yes, he won the playoff game last year, but that was Lane Kiffin's team, not his team. So I'm not really sold on Golding, and it could happen. Jake, I see your face on there. I know how
Well, I'm
you're
just
reacting.
yeah, let's just pick Jake's team that he picked to win the SEC and say that
You
one.
just picked my team to win the national championship.
What?
You said that your team would be Ohio State, would be one of your teams that you could see that happening to, and I just picked them to win the Natty.
Both of us didn't say that.
The only other team, here's another one. And gosh, this pain.
Also, Hunter. Ohio State's expectations are through the roof higher than Ole Miss's. Ole Miss, that's like LSU, Clemson last year. Everybody was picking them to win the national championship. Nobody's picking Ole Miss to win the national championship this year.
I have two more teams, one being Texas, but we already kind of hinted at that. But one out of the Big Ten, and this pains for me to say because, Jake, I have a USC problem, man. But, like, this is supposed to be, like, quote-unquote, the year he's built the roster on the lines of scrimmage, and he's got the defense. He got Gary Patterson in there. Like, that's a great replacement for D'Anton Lynn. And then it's like, dude, who's to say, like, God, what's his name? Shiano at Rutgers and Dylan Londrigan with KJ Duff, who's going to be a first-round draft pick receiver out of Rutgers. They have to make a cross-country trip, no bye. Could be a little close. You lose to Oregon, you lose to Washington, then you have to travel back across the country. You lose to Penn State. Wisconsin's a nitty team this year. I really like Colton Joseph. Luke Fickell's literally coaching for his job. You have Ohio State. You have Indiana. And don't sleep on Bob Chesney and the boys at UCLA. Like, it could fall apart out there in LA. So that would be my answer for that one. USC and Oklahoma.
Any teams that are on none of our brackets that if I told you right now that they make a correct, like Ole Miss last year, Miami last year, which Miami doesn't really fall into that criteria, but teams that not being talked about a lot, but I sit here and tell you they go on a magical run and they're in the Final Four. Off the top of my head, too. This one, maybe not Final Four, but in the playoff and winning the conference, Oklahoma State, I do see the path there for them. If the offensive translation, if it translates to the Big 12 play, they're going to put up points. They have a bunch of guys from North Texas. Wyatt Young, he's like Lad McConkey 2.0, brought over from North Texas with Mestamaker and Eric Morris. He's going to be a guy that a lot of people don't know about right now, but he is going to be highly talked about over the next few months at Oklahoma State. They're one. Texas A&M's another, just because of the direction that Mike Elko's going, got the program going in. Made it to the playoff last year, lost to Miami in the Wingate game. But it's Texas A&M. They lost a ton. It's a lot of turnover. Marcel Reed, Hunter, I know we talked about this earlier, and you got on my ass about it, but I mean, the guy at some point, his athleticism, I think, has to take over at some point. And he's got a ton of playing time now, and as a starter, I think Mike Elko is a good coach that I believe in. And if we sat here and did a list of the top 10, 15 coaches in the country, I would put him on that list. I'm just concerned about the turnover, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting here, in November and December, and it's like, dang, Texas A&M might be able to make a playoff run. So, yeah.
I've got 4 for you. One from each conference. I'll keep them brief. I won't go in detail. ACC Louisville, like if they just hit on all cylinders and it works with Braum. Big 12 Kansas State, schedule-wise, you got another year of Avery Johnson. Like, I know he probably is what he is, but they usually have a pretty solid running back. This is year 1 of Colin Klein. That's another reason I'm a little low on Texas A&M. They lose their play caller that has been there with Mike Elko this entire time and built this thing up, and now he's gone back to his alma mater. Could see some magic there for Kansas State. The Big Ten, Penn State, Matt Campbell. Like, they're such a scheduled team this year. It was actually pretty hard for me not to put them in my playoff, but I could 100% see a world where 9-3 Ohio State gets in over 10-2 Penn State, just based off strength of schedule. Right there. I think it'd be cool if we saw Rocco Beck to Matt Campbell making a little bit of a playoff run especially after everything that happened last year, right? And then out of the SEC, South Carolina. That's really dark horse. Lenore Sellers, man. Like, what if it just happens? What if his athleticism takes over, Jake? And they still got Dylan Stewart off the edge. And I supposedly, according to our boy Todd McShay, they got 6 players inside the top 115. So they got more talent. Maybe it's like on a linebacker position or offensive line position that we're not really sure of. And then they have Nick Harbor. What if Nick Harbor just turns into like fast Calvin Johnson? Who knows? So that would be my pick from those 4 big conferences.
I think my number one answer would be South Carolina also. But I'll throw in I also like Oklahoma State, but I'll throw in Virginia into the mix as well. We're not talking about them enough, I don't think. They won 11 games last year, played for the ACC title game, and they went out and got Prebula, and I think that they could be very good. I mean, who knows? They could make a little bit of noise, and something could happen there. So, again, I think that's dark horse, but I could see it. Maybe.
I like it. I got them going 9-3, so I think they're gonna be solid.
Another one I had more player focused, individual player focused. It's a kind of a 2-parter. What player or players are you most excited to watch? And if there was a non-quarterback Heisman Trophy winner, outside of any of that, I don't know if we had any on the last graphic, but just guys that you're like, oh, this guy could probably, make it to New York. I'll start. Number 1, excited to watch Drew Mestemaker. Was a big North Texas guy last year. He can spin the rock, just beautiful pocket passer. I think we're going to be watching him on Sunday. Lenore Sellers, I'm banking on it clicking this year, like we've been talking about. And then another one that we have not even talked about this guy's team, but Cam Cook, running back, transfer from Jacksonville State to West Virginia. Watched a lot of Jackson State football last year. They were good. I believe they won their conference title game against Kennesaw State. But very good back. I wish he would have transferred to a bigger school. I think there were talks of him going to LSU, at some point, but landed on West Virginia. West Virginia is always just a fun team to watch just when they're playing at home, just because of the fan base. But that's just a random one. And then like non-quarterback Heisman winners. Leonard Moore from Notre Dame. I'm not saying he would win the Heisman, but he's a player, the best cornerback in the country. And is going to be a first-round draft pick next year in the NFL. He's won. Dylan Stewart. Let's say South Carolina does go 10-2. Like, Dylan Stewart is like Michael Parsons 2.0. If he stays healthy, he's a guy like that, non-quarterback guy. Jeremiah Smith's an obvious one. Kadarius Toney's an obvious one. And then one last thing on the players. This is just from being a Georgia fan, but Georgia's linebacker room is going to be filthy, and it's one of the best that we've had since we had Roquan in that group. So I'm excited to watch Georgia's linebacking core this season.
For player, I'm going to go – there's probably a few on here. Like Kenny Minchie at Kentucky really strikes out to me, because I know he was like – they didn't announce Carr as a starter till like the week of the game last year, and they said it was neck and neck. I really am interested to see what Will Stein does with that guy. He's gotten 3 different quarterbacks drafted over the past few years. He kind of turned Bo Nix around, so I'm very interested to see Kenny Minchie at Kentucky, and same thing with Colton Joseph at Wisconsin. Like I said earlier, Luke Fickell's coaching for his job. Colton Joseph rushed for over 1,000 yards last year at Old Dominion as a quarterback, also threw for another 1,600. I can't remember off the top of my head. It probably might have been more than that. But I remember watching him for the past 2 years as somebody went to a Sunbelt school and kept up with Sunbelt football. So I know what kind of dynamic he can bring to a game. like I think Wisconsin has a real chance of beating Penn State in Week 4. I got to see how they come out against Notre Dame and everything, but those would be two players that quarterback specific that I'm really just like, what can these guys do? And there's a lot more that I could probably say, but non-quarterback to win the Heisman, I kind of want to say Nick Harbor, but like because the obvious answer here is Jeremiah Smith. That's the obvious answer. So like I'm gonna try and not say him. Malachi Tony. Yeah, I don't know. Tyler, you go. Maybe I can come up with a better name here in a second.
Player I'm excited to watch is Josh Hoover. I like the way he threw the ball at TCU last year. I think him being with Indiana and Cignetti now, I think that could be really exciting. I think I sprinkled on this in the last episode that we did, but a non-quarterback to win the Heisman, I already named Kewan Lacey, but man, I love Mark Fletcher. I think if they could feed him the rock down in Miami, that could be really cool to see. Cam Coleman's another guy. If Arch is getting him the ball, that he could be in the running as well. So those are kind of my I guess two that I have in mind. I don't think it would really realistically happen, but outside of the obvious.
I'll say DeJon Bishop out of Tennessee. We kind of talked about it earlier. New quarterback. The guy can run the rock. I believe in the offensive line, and people don't realize this, but Tennessee runs the ball first, and I think he's pretty dang good back. I'd also like to see Charlie B from Nashville, Tennessee up in there. That'd be a pretty cool one out of Indiana. So just trying to think obscure out the box here.
If it does click with Michigan and they win games 10-0, 10-7, John Henry Daly, he's a guy. I can see being one of a defensive guy.
I did say this on the last episode. I can't believe I forgot. Justice Haynes at Georgia Tech. He quite literally might lead the – he's going to just like turn into what Haynes King was last year, where he's going to carry it like 25, 30 times a game. He's going to lead the nation in carries if he can stay healthy, and Georgia Tech wins 8 or 9 games, but he has like over 2,000 rushing yards. That'd be a good way to get to New York.
I got 2 more, and then we can wrap it up. There's an obvious answer for this one, but any matchups you're most excited to watch? The obvious answer: LSU, Ole Miss. I think that's the number one. That if you took a poll on college football fans, but I had 2: Notre Dame, Miami, just because I think it's the most potential national championship matchup there is on the board. And then Ole Miss, Oklahoma. I think it's like week 10, week 9. I obviously have both of those teams in my SEC championship game, but that's just such an intriguing matchup. Ole Miss going on the road late in the year to OU and seeing Trinidad against that Oklahoma defense like that. That's what I want to see. I like that game. I got that one marked on my calendar.
I would say
Go ahead. Go ahead, T.
All right. I would say the Oregon-Ohio State game, that's always a good game to watch. I think Georgia-Oklahoma will be a good one just because of maybe some podcast 129 beef between me and Hunter on Dalmatier. So that'll be fun for us personally. I'm excited to watch the Ole Miss LSU game. I think that'll be, again, another one that's just a barn burner. Good game to watch. And then Ohio State-Michigan. I think that'll be good this year. I'm buying into a little bit of Michigan stock. So,
sidebar, preseason right now. Who you taking, Ole Miss or LSU?
LSU.
I believe I have LSU winning it.
Okay. I also had LSU winning it. It's a little concerning, but I think it's going to be a big coin flip game. Games I have circled. Indiana hosting Ohio State at home. I think it's the first time. Well, it'll be like that's probably gonna be their biggest home game of all time. And at that point in the year, both teams, Indiana will probably be undefeated, but like this is gonna be battle tested Ohio State. does Ryan Day have a SIG problem? Like big deal, big game there. Notre Dame, Miami is definitely one that comes off the page to me as well. Texas, Ohio State. That's one. The SEC as a conference needs Texas to win that football game more than I think the University of Texas needs to win the game itself. And there's enough implications on Texas as it is, but that's a big one. And then same thing with Oklahoma, Michigan. They're the same week. One's going to start your day and one's going to end your night. Because one's going to be at big noon, the other one's going to be primetime ABC. And does Kyle Whittingham got this guy and Jason Beck? They got Underwood figured out, or is this Brent Venables just going in there and doing what Brent Venables does and making life hell? So those are games that definitely pop off the page to me.
Another one I'm excited to watch. Just wanted to throw this one out there. I think they'll both have 6 to 8 wins each. But the Iron Bowl, Byron Brown taking down Alabama and single-handedly firing Kalen DeBoer would be awesome. I'm excited about the future of Auburn, personally. I like them. I don't think it's the year before the year. I think next year will be the year before the year. This is the year before the year before the year for Auburn for me.
I'm interested in seeing Florida at Auburn in week 3 this year.
Yeah.
2 first-year head coaches, new staffs.
No clue what we're going to get. Yeah.
You have no idea. And I think that'll be a very, very good football game.
Yeah. Another one I have, and I was going to ask Hunter about this, but, I can't wait to watch Willie Fritz and the boys go down to Statesboro to play Georgia Southern. Why and who and how? Why are they going to Georgia Southern? Explain that to me. I know, no. Southern, but I saw that and I'm like, is that a typo? And I look at ESPN, I look up their schedule through Houston University. That's got to be a joke. Why are they going to Statesboro?
I don't know the quote unquote reason why, but Oklahoma went to Temple last year. It's the first time that Georgia Southern has hosted a Power 4 team at home since they joined the FBS.
What's the price to get into the building? Have you looked?
No, I have not looked. I'm sure.
What's your guess? What do you think it'd be
to get in the building?
Yeah,
probably $100.
Yeah, I'm interested,
but it could be cheaper. I don't know. It's not, maybe not. But all I know is that Clay Helton has a lot of ties to the University of Houston. He played quarterback there, and he was on their staff as a GA right out of school. So I'm sure that had something to do with it. Willie Fritz coached at Georgia Southern and led them first into the Sun Belt, first year in the Sun Belt in the FBS. They won the Sun Belt championship and everything else. So there's ties from both coaches there. Yeah. So I'm sure that had something to do with it.
That makes sense. And on the Houston topic, they're a team we haven't talked about at all. Connor Wegman, very experienced guy.
Better than Marcel Reed.
Willie Fritz is a great football coach. Schedule's not as kind of favorable. They're a team I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the Big 12 championship or, right on the cusp of it. Another one that's why I'm thinking about it. Noah Fafita at Arizona. He's one of the best and most experienced quarterbacks in the country. Going to go to the draft. He's very, very, very fun to watch. That's another squad. The Big 12 is crazy.
They're going to be right there in it. Them and Houston both. We talked about Fafita a little bit 2 weeks ago. He was one of mine on the radar that I was looking at. They're going to be good. And I also like Jaden Craig out of TCU coming from Harvard. Sonny Dykes. I like him too. But anyways, Jake, what's your last question?
That's it. That's all I got. Tyler, did you want to answer that last one?
No, I was just going to say you can get into that Houston Georgia Southern game for a whopping $45.
$45 to sit in the back row, man.
That's awesome. But yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, cool. Well, I don't even remember what the last question was.
It was just, I think it was the matchups.
Oh, the matchups. Yeah, we could probably sit here for a while. Who's to say Georgia Southern doesn't beat Clemson this year? I'm just kidding. I am interested to see LSU Clemson, and I'm interested to see Florida State Clemson this year. Like, just to see where those two teams are at in Week 9. Is Norvell canned? Has Clemson already given up on Dabo for this year? Virginia Tech goes to Clemson this year. Like, they're just a very intriguing team. But nah, that's all I got, man. All right, fellas. Well, that's all we got. I guess it's time to wrap up after an hour and 55 minutes. Thanks to all those who watched. We did top out at like 6 or 7 viewers. We currently have 0 now that the ball's been over. But appreciate you guys listening. Jake, glad you're here, man. Don't know if the next time you'll be on here. Hopefully this week if you're available, but if you're not, that's okay too. And we will be ready. The show will be ready for you to go when you get back from your honeymoon, and that's what's most important. And Tyler and I are happy for you and Braylon both. So we're glad you took the time out. You probably could have been wedding planning or doing something with her, or getting ready for your big day here soon, and you took the time to be with us and get ready for the show. So we appreciate it.
No problem. Glad to do it.
Tyler, take care now.
See ya.
Is podcast 129's 2026 preseason preview and predictions.